Aquarius, this is our manifestation harvest ceremony. As I was just saying, that is quite a mouthful. Full moon harvest ceremony is the time that we give thanks and acknowledge all of the abundance that has come into our life since we planted those intentions during the new moon. And so for this Aquarius full moon, what we're going to be looking at is intentions that we planted 2 weeks ago at the new moon for like some of those micro intentions, and things that we planted 6 months ago during the corresponding new moon in Aquarius. Because as we've been moving through this new and full moon lunar cycle, I talk a lot about how there are the planting phases and the harvest phases. And again, as my name is Autumn, you guys know I'm very into the harvest. Planting is very important because then it gives us an idea of the big picture and where we want to go with our lives and little tweaks that we want to make along the way. But the harvest is when we actually get to kind of sit and be present and realize that the now is kind of all we have. And this full moon for me, that is really what's coming up. The kiddos are heading back to school, and this time of year tends to be when we notice changes in the environment. If you're in the northern hemisphere, it's when the earth is kind of going back to ground and the autumn season is about to kind of come into play. Summer is wrapping up and school's going back into session, and we just kind of are noticing that it's like the start of something new. I was recently reading something. A friend of mine, Melissa Kiddo, who we recorded a Golden Otter episode with, Communicating with Your Angels, if you ever want to check that out. And she talks about September being the start of the spiritual new year. And it always kind of feels like the start of something new. I don't know if that's just because I'm autumn and for me it's like my season, and for me it's a time to check in and know that something new is coming into my life, or if it feels that way for everybody. If it does, let me know how you kind of feel in this time of year. So yeah, welcome to this time where we're just gonna pause for a minute and give thanks and reflect on whatever has come up for us. And then something that I had started mentioning was, you guys know I'm super into my crystals. I'm not a big crystal person where I'm always doing all the things with the crystals, but you'll see them about. So I've got my labradorite back there, reminds me of the Alaskan Northern Lights. Where is it? Boom. And that one's like a rubbing stone. I usually my grandma used to call them worry stones or prayer stones. When you're worried, you kind of rub it. And so I always do that one because it grounds me, because it reminds me of Alaska. It reminds me of the Northern Lights, and it's just soothing. And then I've got my amethyst back there. And then this is a giant thing of rose quartz that my daughter actually found in the backyard. So I'm going to get to why I'm even talking about this. As you all know, if you've been tuning in for any time, you know that when the train leaves the station, it could go on quite a journey. But as my husband always says, especially at dinner parties, the train always comes back to the station. So just bear with me, because I will get back to why I'm talking about crystals, and in particular, that chunk of rose quartz that you see in all the videos. So I was just reading a thing by the Sage Goddess, sagegoddess.com, about the best crystals to use during any lunar cycle. So we talk about the 8 phases of the lunar cycle. So there's when it moves from the new moon to the full moon and then back to the new moon, there are actually 8 phases. And they are the new moon, and then the crescent moon, the first quarter moon, the gibbous moon, the full moon, some people call it the waxing moon, or the waning crescent, the waning gibbous, thank you, the third quarter, and then the waxing crescent. And then it goes back to the full moon. That is all in the resource section. So you hopefully have seen this or heard me talk about this before. If not, all of that information is in the resources for you. But I was reading this thing because I love using crystals, and I used to just kind of take what felt right at any given phase, and then I've been trying to do things with more intention lately. And the sagegoddess.com was talking about the best crystals to use at different phases. And so at the full moon, the best ones that she recommends is moonstone. And obviously, like I'm there with her. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is not moonstone. This is opalescent. I grabbed the wrong crystal. Stay right there. Oh my goodness, crystal. Crystal crisis averted. Okay, so this is moonstone, which I just like love because it's just so subtle. Oh, you guys, I haven't talked about crystals on here. And you can tell it just like lights me up, it makes me happy. And it's like kind of what the Aquarius ritual is all about. It's about letting your freak flag fly and like showing the real authentic you, and the real authentic me like gets super jazzed about crystals. Okay, so moonstone, quartz. So I've just like got like a smaller quartz, and then this is like a legit quartz that my husband got me. Well, actually, we got it together when we were up in Lilydale. So it's a pyramid meant to like amplify. So I always keep that under my computer so that like, because I'm connecting from overseas, I always want this connection to be really great. And so I keep that by my computer. And then selenite. This is an amplifier. And if you want more information about crystals, my dear friend Joseph Adams over at Joseph Adams Healing, also featured in a Golden Otter episode on energy work and like distant healing. He is like the crystal guy. If you've got a question about crystals, he's your guy. So you can find him at Joseph Adams Healing. So as you can tell, I really like love to put other people out there and kind of like nobody's in this alone, and none of my information is proprietary. So like I like to share, and I always love, because maybe it's because I'm a teacher and I like to cite my sources, I love to like share where I get great stuff. So if you guys have any great stuff that you want to share with me, please make sure you do that. You can reach me in any number of ways: Instagram, on here, anywhere. Okay, so those are the crystals that we are going to be manifesting with or harvesting with during this cycle. And then what leads me back to this crystal and this ritual in particular is I used to not show up and play full out. I used to really like hide my spiritual side and make excuses for how I knew things. People ask me all the time, like, how did you know you were a medium? When did you know? And it's like, I don't know if there was any one point when I knew beyond like after my brother had passed, which I've talked about. It was more, when did I feel comfortable telling other people that I was? And that wasn't until a couple years ago when I just finally got so tired of pretending like I was somebody that I'm not. Like, I'm really into the moon, and I'm really into crystals, and I've got an angel altar, and I've got all the things. And for years I used to kind of keep it hidden and like tucked away. And I was afraid that like if people saw the real me, they would judge me and not like me. And I just didn't feel like I could be authentic and safe. And so I consciously set the intention to start opening myself up and sharing my spiritual gifts. And for me, 6 months ago, what I planted was the intention to move overseas and have a really safe and easy move, and to like feel really grounded wherever I landed, because there were a lot of unknowns. We didn't know where we knew the town we'd be living, but we didn't know what neighborhood or home, or there was just so much that I had to really step out in faith, and I did. And within a week of getting here, this is a few months ago, my 6-year-old was stone hunting in the backyard. She takes her bike out and she goes and looks for stones, because I am so into crystals. And over the last couple years, just by opening myself up and like letting that not be something I hide, it's something that like she's really proud of and she's innately curious about. And it's like, they're rocks, they're minerals, they're beautiful. Oh, we used to go to the Smithsonian. Has anybody been to the Smithsonian like crystal gallery? They have like the Hope Diamond. Oh my gosh, like that was my favorite part of living in DC. I would, like, if I was having a rough week, I would go there and just kind of like zen out, like amongst the huge chunks of crystals. Side note, so within a couple weeks of getting here, my daughter was out in the backyard stone hunting, and she had various, stones in her collection. She's 6. And she rolls up with this one that I had seen in the backyard, and I was like, that one looks different, but I didn't really we're moving into a new house. We just moved overseas. There's a lot to do. And I kind of like registered it. I was like, I gotta go back and check on that like giant hunk of whatever that is. I've never seen a stone like that just kind of like it wasn't placed. It was just randomly like kind of half unearthed. And she digs it up and brings it in. She goes, Mommy, I got you this rose quartz. And I was like, oh, thanks, honey. And then I looked at it. I was like, oh my gosh, this is rose quartz. Like only, I guess if you move to Africa, like you might find rose quartz in your backyard. That was never like, it's just one of those examples of you plant an intention and you never know how big it's going to be. Because when I buy crystals, generally my budget currently, or maybe not even my budget, my comfortableness with like having large chunks of rocks that kind of are an outward sign of who I am internally. Out and about in my home, I wasn't quite ready to make that leap before. And, I used to go for like little stones like this that I could keep kind of nicely in the kitchen, like a decoration or by a window so they could soak up the moonlight and I could give them a crystal bath without being like too woo about it. Oh my gosh, like I hear about people talking about like down low and low key things. Like I was like in the spiritual closet, like as I was talking to people, I'd be like hiding my regalia, but that's another ritual. So my daughter found me this beautiful giant chunk of rose quartz that like I would have wanted, but I never would have gotten for myself. And the universe like gave that to us. And my daughter was able to give it to me as a gift. And it sits there and it's in all my videos. I wanted to share a little bit about it. So that's kind of how the train is coming back to the station. But the last thing I wanted to do was remind you about your Foursquare. So there is a PDF of all of these in each ritual and in the members area, and then just attached to each ritual you'll be able to find these no matter where you're accessing this. And remember, on the front you're gonna have the new moon, and then on the back you're gonna have the corresponding full moon. This is my Leo one. And we've already talked about the words that we're using: health, wealth, love, and perfect self-expression, or the ones that are really resonating for me right now are ease, flow, connection, and expansion. So on the back of your Aquarius new moon that you should have made back in like February, that's where you're gonna write kind of like what has come up for you and any like big manifestations like giant hunks of crystal. So like that would be mine. In my perfect self-expression was a safe move and a safe like journey and all of the finer details being taken care of by the universe. And so for me, sharing this story about that crystal is kind of the harvest and the manifestation of that. Yeah, so make sure that you note those and then keep those. If you don't want to print out the PDF that is accompanying this video, you can also just do it on a piece of paper. Remember, I'm your friendly medium / high school history teacher, and I do things the plain Jane way, just a piece of paper folded. But do make sure to like note those things. If you don't have a Foursquare from 6 months ago, what you can do is go back and look at your text messages, your DMs, your emails, posts on any social media, any notes that you might have written in a planner, or just kind of anywhere that you may have written yourself. Oh, I just got one. Sorry, I've been doing a lot more channeling lately. I've had a lot of private sessions, and so the Spirit's been whispering to me. Notes, like if somebody gave you a note or a card. Check that out. Okay, this is going a little bit long, so we're going to just give you a quick snip of the Aquarius full moon ritual, and then we will close it out. I thought this was going to be like a really calm and zen call. I was feeling like very zen before, and then I get on here and I'm like, hey guys! But that is the energy of the Aquarius full moon, because it's all about just showing who you are authentically and letting your freak flag fly. So this is me, flag all the way up the flagpole, just going in the wind. Okay. I don't know what's gotten into me. Aquarius full moon. Let's get physical, metaphysical. Non-resistance is pure alchemy. When we stop forcing situations, our lasting good and highest aspirations come easily and effortlessly. So, are you ready to move, shake, shake, and drop what your mama or daddy or other soul family member gave you? At the new moon 2 weeks ago, we took time to envision our future with our last rituals. So with the full moon in Aquarius, now is the time to take action and get into both vibrational and physical alignment with the life you want to live. Harnessing the energy of the full moon, use your Bagua, which we created during the Cancer new moon, so you want to go check that out, to make money moves in your wealth and abundance corner. Release stored family drama or illness hiding in your family and health zone, or jump with joy as you prep your career and work quadrant to land that job you've been dreaming about. In tandem with using a Chinese Bagua, which reveals shadows within ourselves or hidden opportunities that were blocked from view, the full moon in Aquarius ritual will flip the stagnancy switch and lets you get physical with metaphysics, learning how to move energy. So the Bagua is what we use for our vision board, and now this month what we're going to be doing is actually taking the idea of a Bagua into our physical space, which is where it's where it comes from originally in the practice of feng shui. And we're going to overlay that into our living spaces. And first of all, get rid of any clutter that you don't want. And second of all, do your best to align your physical space with how you really want to be seen in the world. Like, what is it that lights you up, that like you don't mind sharing? I know that crystals maybe seem kind of innocuous, but for me, I hid them for a very long time. I kind of like placed them in special places until I just realized like they're just so beautiful. Like I can't hide them. And I was hiding a part of my authentic self. And so hence the crystal story. Hence the crystals. So let your freak flag fly in your home or office and go do the ritual if you haven't done so already. And the last thing I want to say is just like a shout out to my LGBT community, because this Aquarius ritual, the image for it always reminds me of a Pride festival, even though it's not Pride season right now, but Pride season is always in my mind, because I've just been thinking a lot about this idea of like Pride Week and Pride Month, and how it gives us permission, gives people who feel like they haven't been able to share their authentic self the time to actually do that and celebrate it in a safe and supportive environment. And I hope that you all feel that way here in this space, no matter, 24/7, 365. And I hope that every time you come into this space and check into this space and do these ceremonies, that you can then take that energy out into your real life, and it can trickle out into your relationships, your intimate relationships, your social relationships, your professional relationships. Because by being your authentic self and sharing what makes you tick, tick, twerk, whatever, sharing what makes you gives other people permission to do the same. So that's it. Okay, thank you guys so much for being here for the Aquarius full moon ceremony. With love and light, Autumn.